Hi everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Journaling Through Life Home Edition. Today, our special guest comes from the UK. Her name is Margaret Hays. She is trained as a nurse, and she also completed a beginner level course in functional medicine. Very interested to hear more about that too, Margaret. She is also a qualified Mizan Therapist. Margaret, how are you doing? How are things in the UK?
Things are good to an extent because the sun's out. I think at this moment in time, they're saying we presumed to have probably expected to reach our peak. Can't say that for certain, but I do know that thankfully the numbers are starting to decline and people are staying at home more. But yeah, the weather does help. It helps a lot of people's mental health, and it is important to try and stick your head outside the window if you don't have a garden or something like that, because we'll go for a walk, which they've allowed over here. But yeah, nonetheless, things are still good over here, thankfully.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. And what about your family? Everybody doing okay? Everybody healthy?
Yes, thankfully everybody is home, social distancing, and trying to keep positive, and obviously saying daily affirmations, prayers, and stuff like that. So, and excuse me, and I just think that that's what's helping everyone during this time, to be fair, and just checking on everybody and doing a lot of virtual calls, which can be overwhelming sometimes, but yeah, everybody is fine. Thank you for asking.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear. And yes, you're absolutely right. I was saying the other day that I think I've gotten dressed up more in the last week doing this series than I have in the last year. you
Yes, you have to. You have to do what you have to do to keep sane. That's the reality.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you and I actually met online. I followed your Instagram page. I think we have a lot of holistic principles, some of that natural medicine, a lot of that in common, and specifically infertility and women's issues, women's health, the challenges that women face specifically to women. Could you talk about that a little bit, what your business is about?
Yeah, absolutely. So my business is basically about supporting women overall with their health. So a lot of people do come to me for fertility problems, but I do often end up focusing also on other health issues because they all obviously relate to each other. You can't deal with one problem without dealing with the root cause. And the reality is you need to get to the root cause. You can't deal with the symptom. So everything flows in and out. So that's what I do. I help women overall with their health, and obviously with their mental health, because mind-body connection is essential as well. And having trained as a nurse, I've always been incredibly interested in the body, the human body, the anatomy, and how powerful our body is. And then I realized actually modern medicine just treats, you know, the symptoms. And I wasn't particularly happy with that. And I think what led me to also want to do the foundation course in functional medicine, but also to train as a Mizan therapist, was because my own health was suffering. I was diagnosed with a thyroid issue, overactive thyroid issue, in 2015, and also just had a couple of other problems around my health, but mainly it was the thyroid which was affecting everything else. And vitamin D, which I realized at the time when I started studying, can also cause inflammation if you don't have enough of it in the body and affects your immune system. So, and that's something that I was deficient in. So for me, my actual journey or my actual health actually encouraged me to help others, because I thought there will be others out there who don't necessarily have what I was diagnosed with, but will want to conceive at some point, because I wanted to conceive, have children, of course, and also have some underlying health condition. And an Mizan is something that I just thought I need to do something that's going to benefit people physically, because people want human contact. It's all great doing consultations on the phone are great. Creating herbs is fantastic, but actually giving something to somebody that will actually aid their health and actually benefits overall their mind and body. That's why I took it upon myself to train as a Mizan therapist. And what Mizan actually does is it helps to support the messengers that your body sends to your brain and your stomach and improve your overall health. So for example, it's a massage, but it's a specific targeted massage that supports gut health, realigns do a lot of things on your back, um, emptying out your lymph nodes. A little bit of acupressure into that as well. And I often teach my clients what they can do to support themselves. So it's not just me, because the reality is I want them to achieve their goal as well. So yeah, so I also recommend them to have the self-care fertility massage or massage that they can do on themselves, as well as the Mizan self-care massage that they can do on themselves, as well as the acupressure. But yeah, that's what I do. And I actually want to go into schools eventually to teach young women from a young age to take better care of themselves, because it starts from a young age. If you can get it in earlier, then you can change the issues that we currently are facing now, particularly around fertility and the rise of endometriosis, fibroids, PCOS, the list is endless. But yeah, it can make a difference, and cancers such as breast cancer as well.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. That is a very holistic approach to healing, and that is what we do here as well. Just the body-mind connection. And you mentioned that there's some that you can do yourself. You can do some massages yourself.
Absolutely. You can do massages on yourself. I can put that in the link below. There's a couple on YouTube. Before I became a Mizan Therapist, I took an interest in it, and I started doing it on myself. But I'm happy to send the links anyway for Mizan Therapist. So yes, literally, you can't do the whole thing because you can't do your back and you can't do your legs, but you can do your stomach, and you can basically increase blood flow to the area and your womb, which is essential, really. And just connecting with your womb is so important. Now, I don't think people actually understand the importance of connecting with the womb and the power that it presents and what it's actually been designed for. You know, I think people just, although you could argue it's been created to house a baby or to excrete waste, it's a lot more powerful than that, because it obviously can harbour a lot of issues that can perhaps link to trauma in the past as well, and also can be influenced by the food you eat as well. So I don't think people really take that on board. I think people just think it's got two objectives, really.
I love that. And absolutely. And that is what our journaling does too. It connects those two back together. And I think as a society, like you said, maybe traditionally or culturally, or however you were growing up or your environment, if you were taught that this is a dirty thing or it should be not talked about, it's, a secret, it doesn't help then to connect and to really take care of it and to find that it is a part of who you really are. Now, in terms of the food, you mentioned that there is a lot of food, especially now that we are all at home. I think we can take some time and to decide what we want to eat, how we want to eat. Would you mind just elaborating on that, how we
Yeah,
can do it now in this time?
absolutely. So the range of, really, the basic rule, really, how I like to present it to my clients is try to avoid excess dairy, soya, refined sugar, and meat, particularly red meat, but also, if you can, try to eat organic. But I know that's the reality is not everybody will have access to those foods, and that's the thing that I'm often concerned about, really. But by avoiding those foods or food groups I've just discussed, it can do the world of good, because those things actually cause inflammation in the body. And in turn, you have two hormones in your body as a woman. You have your estrogen and you have your progesterone. And the reality is, if you eat those foods too much and your body is heavily reliant on those foods, you can start to get secondary diseases, as I've mentioned, endometriosis, polycystic ovaries, overactive thyroid. The list is endless. And the importance of actually scaling back will do the world of good, because actually your immune system is actually in your gut. Now, if you allow yourself to just indulge and eat rubbish, and I'm not saying this to everybody who can't get, these foods, because it is expensive sometimes, for depending on where you live. That's the reality, and your income. That's difficult. I get that, but if you can, try to eat more food, such as obviously your vegetables, because that will help your body to get rid of the waste, the excess toxins in your body, the estrogen dominance in your body, and obviously cutting back on the number of meat as well. And if you can, get organic, like I said, and creating more things from scratch, because you know what goes into your foods. And even right now, I think people find it difficult, but particularly in my culture anyway, and some people's other cultures, seasoning is important, but the reality is things like MSG, that's not really, it's awful. It's something, it wreaks havoc on the body as well. So I know it tastes nice, if you want to call it that, but there are other things. Just go for the natural things, such as your salt or your onion salt, or just create more. I don't know, I guess it will encourage you to be more what's the word, more adventurous with what you're eating and creating. And if you can obviously teach, if you've got a family, you're teaching your young children what to eat, and changing their way they eat and their taste buds, that will only benefit them in the long run. So it's about introducing yourself to foods that you would not necessarily eat. Like, for example, when I started the health journey, buckwheat, it's a grain that not many people enjoy, because it is very, very dry, I must admit, very dry. But something like that, can reduce the amount of dominance you have from the estrogen, the excess toxins in the body, improve your overall digestion and your immune system, of course, because of the ecosystem or the microbiome in your stomach, and affect your mental health as well. But the reality is, if you haven't dealt with your stomach, even if you deal with your mental health and you get a counselor, then you're just going to go back to eating rubbish, because you haven't dealt with the problem or the root cause, which is food. And I think it's about being kind to yourself and understanding that over a period of time, it needs to be gradual, so it becomes a sustainable habit. Because there's no point saying, I'm going to do this, and then it doesn't, you beat yourself up, you get angry, and then it's a vicious cycle. You end up eating nonsense again. So I think really just sticking to keeping as natural as possible to your food group, because I could give a list of everything everybody could eat, but the reality is that's not going to be accessible to everybody. So if you can just ask yourself, when you read the label, does it have things on there that I can actually pronounce? That's a starter. Do I really want to eat these things? And even like food, even the creams as well, and sun creams and stuff like that. I could go on about that, but just ask yourself, has this come from the ground? Has it been dealt with? Wash it thoroughly, because even like things like apples, most apples, obviously, to preserve the way they look, they've been obviously covered with wax, to look gorgeous, but you're eating that, and that's not great. So just trying to just wash the apple thoroughly to try and get as much wax. I think I watched something the other day where you can put hot water on the apple to melt the wax. I did it myself, but what I noticed was you had a lot of white stuff all over the apple, but you just have to wipe it to get. That's the truth of it. But yeah, just asking yourself, is this natural? Can I buy it? Can I afford it? And prioritizing yourself, because if you look after your body will look after you, and that's the truth of it.
Absolutely. And I love that apple. I'm going to do that. I did a similar thing. I read something about grapes where they have, and if you just put a tiny bit of cornstarch in cold water and you swish it around, it takes all that foamy parts off. And the grapes actually taste so much better. So I'm going to do the hot water with the apples too. That's incredible.
I'm going to implement that with the grapes, actually. I had no idea grapes was that. And it's difficult because it's this time as well. You need to be making sure you're cleaning your fruit, and you don't know how it's been dealt with or handled before it's got to you.
Right. If there's any time that we should, practice the good hygiene of our food, it is now. Absolutely. And you made a very good point to say that if one part of us is sort of out of balance, it is going to affect the other part. And I found, especially with women and trying to conceive, you can get so focused in your mind on this goal of having to have a baby, having to need it, that you forget sort of about the other parts of yourself. To start a really simplistic way, like you said, start with natural food. Just take it one, because it can get obsessive really fast on one side of the spectrum, right? And then you start judging yourself, you start thinking, what's wrong with me? My uterus is broken, like this, that, the other thing. And then your relationship with your body becomes really skewed as well. The similar relationship with your body and the food that you put into it. Now, would you recommend a food journal? Is that something that you've seen people use and it helps to just reconnect the dots?
I definitely would recommend a food journal. That's 100%. I was actually doing that myself, actually, in the beginning of trying to conceive. Absolutely, because the reality is you can go a whole day and forget what you've eaten in that day, and then you can and then probably feel really awful. You feel really great after it. So actually writing down things like, what have I eaten today? How do I feel now? Or what have I eaten now? And why did I eat that? And actually, it can actually encourage you, and actually linking it to your cycle, your periods as well. That is so important, because if you're not able to track what you've eaten in that whole month, and why your period's late, why is the color different? Why is the texture different? All of those things. You don't even know if you've ovulated that month as well. So it's just so important, because then you can track, am I eating a lot of foods that contain or can actually encourage inflammation in the body, or am I eating things that are going to support my overall fertility? That's the root cause of it. And why am I eating those things? Just going back to the basics, really, because for myself, I was I was overweight when I was younger. Haven't been overweight well, I haven't been officially overweight, if you want to call it. I put a little bit of weight on, but I haven't been overweight for a long time. And I think my relationship with sugar has always been, yeah, it's not great. And I think for women, we do need sugar. And I think we heavily rely on snacks as well. And snacking's not great, because you're not giving your body respite to digest the food. So all you're doing is just consuming. The body's like, you've just given me this and you want me to now digest that. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm a bit overwhelmed. And you're not giving your gut bacteria time to also process what you're dealing with as well. Exactly. And also, there's so much things, Christine, but for example, antibiotics. That is just a big no-no. I know if you have to take it, you have to take it. I completely understand that. But if you have to take it, make sure you're eating foods that will supplement the bacteria in your stomach that you've lost or been destroyed, particularly in the vaginas, the environment of vagina as well, because I don't think people realize that can affect you, that you're more predisposed to infections that way as well. So the body needs to be in almost like a harmonious state. So that's why I believe journaling journaling is so important, because you can track what's going on here and the connection with what's going on between the two and what's causing that, really. Because I feel like a lot of women, particularly with fertility right now and reproductive health issues anyway, are often in fright mode, which is a stress mode, really, because of work, because of money, because of family, because of all these things, and don't often have a moment to sit down and be like, is this good for me? Is it good for my body? Am I rewarding myself with good food as a treat? Or am I actually giving my body fuel that it actually needs? And I think once we change our relationship and realize actually we need to give our body fuel rather than prioritize taste. It's not just taste is fantastic, of course, but I think it's that association that, so long as it's attractive, you can make it look attractive. And that's why colors are important when you do make your foods. And obviously spending a bit more time to make sure that the natural stuff that you do have makes it taste nice, but remembering that actually it's a source of fuel rather than a treat for the body. I think that also needs to change as well. And being honest with yourself.
Right, right. And the honesty and then the non-judgmental part. I found that is a recurring theme in almost everything that we discuss on this in this series, is that there's so many judgments, or there's just simply an overload of information where it's like, do this, do
Absolutely.
that, do this, do that. And like you said in the beginning, go back to the basics, back to that harmonious state. And I always think our bodies are such a delicate, intricate machine that you do have to balance the ins, the outs, the yings, the yangs, the masculine, the feminine, what you put in. Like you said, fuel, it's not sustainable to just eat junk all the time.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I just had a real quick question for the food journal. Would you suggest then, say, if you write the day, the time, what you've eaten, where you are in your cycle, and perhaps what mental state that food makes you in, just to sort of combine it all together?
absolutely. Yes, definitely write down the day, the time. I know over a while it can be a bit tedious, but it will serve you in the long run. And I also just want to just state as well that there are 4 phases to your cycle, and they reflect the 4 seasons of the year. And if you can write down where you are in your cycle, so for example, I'm just going to go through them very quickly. You have menstruation, which is winter. Everybody feels rubbish during the winter time. You're going to want to eat chocolate, drink your hot chocolate, sweets, whatever have you. That's some form of comfort food that's going to make you feel amazing. And I'm not saying that that's not okay to have sometimes. It's just about having it in proportion, or making sure that you've reduced it significantly. But winter phase, yes, of course you're going to feel awful. That's your period. And I'm not saying you're going to always, some people don't get pain, but you just feel tired, and that's normal. That's the body having to try to recuperate. But it's remembering, if you're journaling what you're eating in that phase, then you can track what your next cycle is going to be like. And I think that's important. And then obviously they've got the next phase, which is the liquor phase, which is basically, that's your spring phase. And that's obviously everybody starts to feel a bit more perked up around spring. You feel a bit more energetic. And it's also a great way to target, am I going to feel, all right to meet up with friends, or have a family party or family dinner at a specific time? So that's a great time to target how you're feeling alongside with what you're eating as well. And then you've got summer phase, which is your ovulation phase. And it's the best time because you're optimistic. Yeah, exactly. You've got all the energy in the world. It's your honeymoon phase, really. And you obviously feel amazing. You don't want to overindulge and eat everything. And I find with myself, particularly in the summer, in that phase, I often eat more natural foods such as fruits and veg. I don't want any of the comfort foods such as soup and stuff that's quite heavy. So I do feel I'll notice a difference in that phase, regardless of where I am in the year anyway, in terms of, so I can be in my ovulation phase and it can be winter and I notice I still want to eat lots of fruit and veg. So that makes sense. And then you've got the last phase, which is your luteal phase, or you've got the next phase, which is your luteal phase, which is your autumn. And you just try, you go back to retreating, or you retreat back to, your comfort. You become an introvert, maybe, for some people. Um, but I think knowing those phases and where you are, and actually realizing that the body connects with nature in that respect, is so powerful, because then you can target what you're doing overall in a month. Can you do certain things? Do you want to go for an interview? Do you want to ask for a pay rise? All of those things, because it's all in you. You have the power, the ability. It's all targeted to support you in life, and to deal with things in life. But I think because we've lost that as a people, those basic things, it's difficult. And we just think that we're always going to feel awful. So journaling helps you to identify, I don't actually feel always awful. And if I do feel always awful, actually, then I can target what's making me feel this particular way. Is it food? Is it my lifestyle? Is it work? What is it?
Absolutely. And oh, I just love that. Thank you so much for that explanation. I'm going to think about it all the time now. And be like, this is where I'm at. Please leave me alone. I need to hibernate. Right?
Exactly. And I think it's about not being hard on yourself as well. If you want to hibernate, because I think a lot of women feel the pressure to succumb to whatever society wants them to do. You know, you don't want to go out on your period. You don't want, not always everybody wants to go out on their period. So okay, stay at home and watch whatever you want to watch or read a book. You know, so yeah, it's really important, and I will send those links to you. Hopefully that will be at the end of the conversation under the link that you'll post. But yes, I think it's important that we educate ourselves as women around going back to basics like that.
Absolutely. And yes, the links will all be in the description, and we'll put them on Facebook, and they can follow you on your Instagram account and learn more about your services. But yes, the links will definitely be in there. And I think that brings us to a good point to say, in this time where everybody is so anxious, there's an overload of information. And you and I were even discussing before we recorded how just watching the news and everything can bring you really down. You can get sad. It's not a very happy space in the world that we are in globally, but one thing we do have control over is how we feel and how we can empower ourselves to stay mentally, physically, and just with our relationships around us to stay in a good mental state. There's going to be ups and downs, not dissimilar to the cycles where things have an ebb and a flow in a certain sort of rhythm to it. But hopefully that if we can give people the resources and the empowerment that they need, it won't be as intense and it won't last as long, so that we can get out of this sort of better people and discover things about ourselves that we didn't know. Now, was there any books, any things that you can maybe share with us, some knowledge that you've attained on how to really learn more about ourselves?
There is a book, I think it's called Moon, I think it's called Moon. I'll need to double check that. But it basically talks about the overall health and connecting with that body and the mind-body connection and the power of your period and using your cycle to benefit you in the long run, to deal with the peaks and troughs of life and just to deal with life as a whole. And there's another book by Alyssa Vitti called Woman Code. And that's a great book to have because it's got practical tips and advice on how to basically navigate through your cycles and what they mean, and basically obviously food as well, food and why you might feel a certain way. But what I love about that book is the practical advice. I think when you read it, you're just like, wow, that makes sense. And I think in this time, it's a very great time to read a lot more because we will have no time like this ever again in history, and I think it's a good time to connect with yourself. And there's a lot of things I actually want to say about if anybody is trying to conceive in this time, just be kind to yourself. It will happen. It will happen. And I think it's about genuinely believing that it will happen. You can't allow other people to believe it for you. And I think it's about preparing your body, particularly if you're going for fertility treatment in this time, or can't go for fertility treatment in this time. It's about supporting your egg health. And they don't talk much about egg health. And I feel that that's a reason why many of the fertility treatments often don't, work or fail, because not only is the onus on the woman as a society, but your partner also needs to make sure that his sperm health is also important to contribute to the overall health of the egg. So I think, and it takes 3 months for egg health to be supported as a whole. So if you've got good health with your eggs, that will support your implantation, and obviously making sure that your endometrium lining in your womb is fantastic and healthy. And that's another great thing that Mizan helps to do. It helps to maintain a healthy lining in the womb. And when I was preparing for pregnancy, that was key in terms of ensuring that I got fertility treatments or Mizan therapy treatments, such as the massages, to support my, my endometrial lining, but also the egg health as well, because there are too many devastating things that people don't talk about, i.e. taboo of miscarriage, early miscarriage, missed miscarriage that people often happens before 12 weeks, really. So I think in this time, for those who are trying to conceive, focus on what you can do to support your egg health and your overall health, mind-body connection. So powerful. Try and get some sun. It's, vitamin D is linked to infertility. if you don't have enough in your body, that can hinder. Yeah. And I know a lady who was trying to conceive for 8 years, and her periods was all over the place, like 54, 46. It varied. And she's a really good friend of mine, actually. And once she changed her diet, because her diet was very heavy in dairy, because of her culture, and she realized actually the relationship with the food was affecting her fertility and actually affecting ovulation. So she increased her vitamin D through obvious supplements. There's a spray. I'm happy to put a link. I don't get paid for this, but I think knowledge is power. In terms of supporting people to know that vitamin D, if you don't get enough sun, where can you get your vitamin D from as well? And also just in general, so basically what I'm trying to say was your egg health needs to be supported, your mind needs to be supported. Affirm yourself every single day. So my body has been created to give life and create life, and it will do that. I used to say to myself, I am pregnant every day. It sounded crazy in the beginning. I'd be in my car and be like, I am pregnant every single day. I said that in my car or say it in my house. And then when it finally happened, I thought, oh my goodness, wow, And again, like, I had secondary infertility. I didn't have a problem conceiving in the past. So that's why for me, it was a bit of a shock, because I thought, this is very strange. Why is it taking long to conceive? But again, life. And for me, work was really hammering me down. I was doing long distance commutes. That affected the relationship I had with food, because I would just grab and go. I was drinking so much coffee in the morning to stay awake. I remember even my honeymoon, I slept most of the time. Every time we sat down, I would fall asleep. It was so bad. And I realized there was something wrong, which was overactive thyroid. I was like, something is very wrong with my body. This is not normal. And all I was doing is eating pastries in the morning. Now, that's not going to benefit fertility. So just please be kind to yourself. That's what I would say to all the women out there who are trying to conceive. And if you are trying to conceive naturally in this time, it can happen. Don't rely solely on infertility treatment, because that's what someone said to me, actually, because we were going to do fertility treatment. And I think someone advised me to say, just be open. Just be open. It can happen either way. And I think once you get to that point, then the world's your oyster. Because however you get to motherhood, that's all that matters in the end, really, isn't it? But you just need to make sure you do what's best for you and your growing baby. That's important. And I was going to talk about epigenetics, but we can talk about that another time. Sorry about that. But yeah, please, those women out there, please. And also, I know it's not nice, another tip for boosting your immune system, to reduce inflammation in the body. Cold showers, not particularly nice, but if you put it on for a moment, 30 seconds or a minute, then that will boost your immune system and also your gut health. Yeah.
Really? Cold showers for 30 seconds? Like how cold? Like Arctic cold, or like
as cold as you can get it, really. Yeah, if you can. I don't like cold showers. I hate them. But I noticed when I came out of it, I just felt amazing. Because I would often, if you want, you can do it at the end. So you can have a nice hot shower or your bath, and then just do a quick shh, and then you're out. So that's
good for kids too. Sorry, is it good for kids too, or just adults?
Yeah, good for kids too. Good for kids too. It's not particularly nice, but hey, if and I think that it's good to try and see, if particularly for those who won't be able to get access to healthy foods, to do alternatives such as that. It can only benefit in the long run, really, your overall health. So that's why I had to share that tip, because it's certain. If you can get a vitamin D deficient, if you can get a vitamin D supplement, that will help. Tablets not great, because the body finds it difficult to break down and to synthesize the information. Really, it's difficult to extract the information. So a spray is what I use, and it absorbs straight into the bloodstream.
And if what about those drops? Would drops be a good one?
Drops is a good one, because I presume that will go on your tongue, go straight into your bloodstream. Absolutely. So And also, if you can get your vitamin D tested, that's great. I know it's different depending on where you are again in the world, but that's definitely something I've asked my thyroid doctor to, to do. And she even checks my bone health. I haven't had my results yet, but she decided to do that, and anemia, because that your vitamin D can affect your iron levels as well.
Absolutely. I do think we need to do another series on all these because it's just the tip of the iceberg topics here. Thank you so much for sharing that information. And I know in Canada specifically, they add vitamin D to the milk products because of our long winters that we don't see any sun for a very long time. I went out yesterday for like half an hour and the UV must have been so hard, and that's why my face is all red. I'm like, did I get a sunburn in like 2 minutes for just not having sun for so long?
Yeah.
So especially in the colder climates like Canada and potentially the UK as well. I don't know, what is the vitamin D, like the sun?
Yeah, it's very much the same. Yeah,
Wow.
we take our sons with a pinch of salt, where we can get it. And I've just like literally all week I've just sat outside to just get as much vitamin D into my system as possible. Because like you said, the UV rays have been high. I try to go out when it's less intense. But they do put in, like Canada, they do add vitamin D to the milk and to a few other products because a lot of people are deficient over here because of the lack of sun.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's what's
Absolutely.
worrying, really.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of these amazing tips. I'm going to try out the shower. Now, on a final note, was there any words of encouragement? I know you mentioned, be kind to yourself, do some self-care, just one final thing of just coming back to yourself. Because like you said, I don't think we're going to have this time in history again where we can, or in our future, where we can just really focus on ourselves and our relationships. A mantra that works for you every morning that you wake up, or something like that.
I think for me, what works for me is affirming yourself, and those niggly voices that you hear that aren't always nice, just shut them down with an affirmation, a positive affirmation about yourself. And remember, what you say to other people is also a reflection of yourself. So I've noticed in this time, I've been also encouraging a lot of people. And I think someone said to me, the way you do that, play back your messages so you can listen to how you encourage people, because you need to also remind yourself of that also in this time. And just allow this season of, whether, I know it's not particularly nice, but allow this season to allow you to fuel yourself in any shape or form, whether that's your mental health, or obviously with food. It's the two are connected, obviously, but yeah, affirmations is definitely something I would say, and journaling when you can, or where you can, because by getting your thoughts down, talking honestly about where you've got a thought from, why do you have that thought, stuff like that, that would definitely help, because I was battling with that a few weeks ago, and I was like, why do I keep having this thought? What can I do to rectify it? And I replaced it with a positive. But yeah, affirmations is definitely something I would say to do, and journaling.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That is wonderful. That is really wonderful. I love affirmations,
Mhm.
mantras. I put it on sticky notes all over so the kids can see it too, because you never know when you need to look at that. Maybe you feel down today and you just remind yourself, oh, yeah, right. Like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah,
Or it's okay to
exactly.
feel the way that I feel, however
Yeah,
that
yeah.
works. Now, if people want to learn more about you and the services that you are doing, I know everything's sort of virtual now and they can find more information about you. Where can they go?
They can go onto the Mizan website. My details are on there. You can go on to Nature Cycle, which is also Nature Cycle spelled with an apostrophe and S at the end, because I know there is something similar, but it's not quite the same. Cycles, I think it was. But my one's Nature's Cycle. That's on Instagram, and also that's on Facebook. And you can find me on my YouTube page as well. I haven't done much videos on my YouTube, but yes, you can find me that way. And if you want a quick consultation, I'm more than happy to do that free of charge, because everybody needs help at some point, with their journey, whatever it is that's going on with you right now. I'm sorry I can't do Mizan treatments right now, but I'm happy to do at the moment consultations free of charge. Absolutely.
Oh, wow. That is wonderful. Thank you so much. And I
You're
hope that
welcome.
your family stays healthy and safe in this time.
Mm,
And I
mm,
really appreciate your time all the way from the UK. I always like chatting to people from across the pond. Then it makes me feel like we're still connected, even though we're,
mm,
physically far away, we're still connected. So Margaret, thank you so
mm.
much. And I'll
You're
post all of
welcome.
your links in the description.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely day. I think it's day for you as well, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Have a lovely day, and I will speak with you all soon. Thank you, Christine. Take care.
To help with your infertility journey, our guided journals are online, available in digital format at journalingthrough.life. Keep journaling and keep growing.